YouTube, you're getting a little bit of behind the scenes action of what happens when I'm trying to record the pod. Generally, this fella sits on the desk and I have to hunt him off. Come here to me. Okay. Finished in 10 minutes. You sit down. Good boy. Good boy. Okay. Okay, let's do it. Okay. Yeah, I know. Good boy. Sit. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Entrepreneur Experiment Idea Lab with me, Gary Fox. So this week we're going to kick off with some cool... Take two. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Entrepreneur Experiment Idea Lab with me, Gary Fox. This week I'm going to summarize a couple of really cool ideas I've seen across the world, kind of following on from what I talked about last week about now we need to kind of adjust to our new reality and kind of go on to where we are. And these are two ideas. Well, one's outlandishly big, but I thought it was inspiring all the same. The second one is something you can actually implement now if you are an entrepreneur looking to try to find an idea. It's something that I think most people could implement, and it's something I've often wondered at. I look at businesses and kind of wonder, I wonder if I make much money. So I found this report. I'm going to try to find more reports similar to this. So stay tuned for a special report on vending machines and how much money you can make from them. First off, let's kick off and preview the week ahead. We've got some incredible guests coming up on the pod in the next couple of weeks. And this is a really cool quirk of the pod because we've been going so long now. We've been going since March 2019. Entrepreneurs I interviewed relatively early in their journey back then have now gone on to have great success in the last couple of years, and it's cool to see their full journey go from start to finish. And I'm really lucky to have a couple coming back this week who have managed to sell a large stake in their business. So they're going to talk us through how they went from where we were when we talked over them a year ago and to where they are now and how the whole process went. So I think that's going to be really interesting. So tune in. I think they'll be coming out the week after next. First idea, the Qantas flight to nowhere. What a brilliant PR stunt. If you haven't heard about this, Qantas, they're an Australian airline. They launched the flight to nowhere. So I'm looking down on my laptop here as we're chatting, and it sold out within minutes. They launched it and it took off last Saturday gone. And what they did was they sold a 787 Dreamliner. They sold a trip for 7 hours on the Dreamliner, but it took off in Sydney and landed in Sydney. So it actually didn't leave Australia. It did a 7-hour tour all around Australia. And it sold out inside 10 minutes. And this touches on something I talked about last week about, you know, this is the situation we're in now. This is the reality of the next, 18 months. So what can you do? What do you have? What does your business have that you can now repurpose and resell it as something else? Do you have a huge stock of certain things? Do you have a lot of space? Do you have access to things that other people can't access? What can you do? Like, obviously, Qantas didn't make a lot of money or any from this, but they got global PR coverage. This story went everywhere. I just put in Qantas flight to nowhere there and it came up, like, I think 100 news stories came up. The one I'm looking at is Fox News in the US. You know, sold out in 10 minutes. What they did was they flew around Australia, dropped down to like 4,000 feet over certain really cool landmarks, and then I think this part was quite cool, they got local guides to actually phone up from the ground to the airliner and give them like a local tour. As they're flying by, they're like, okay, now you're flying over my local area and this is the coolest thing. So I thought that was really class. They also did it with net zero emissions. So obviously that's important. Still got criticized for that though, that it was kind of a waste. And the tickets cost, so 134 tickets cost between $575 and $2,765 and sold out within 10 minutes. It was probably the fastest selling flight in Qantas history, a spokesman said. Clearly we missed the experience of traveling and the experience of flying. I thought that was just a cool idea. What could you do? What does your business have that you could then repurpose for something else? That's idea one. Okay. Behind the scenes, we're back after a very extended dog break. He's cute, but he can be a handful. All right, let's do it again. Now I'll just pretend we didn't actually have a break at all. Ready? And now moving on to the second idea of today, and that is the vending machines, the business of vending machines. This is one of those businesses you can look at and go, I wonder how much money that machine makes, or maybe that's just me. So I read this brilliant article. It was like a long form article published last week, and it broke down the entire business of vending machines. I found it fascinating, and this is touching on something we talked about last week about just, adopting the new reality, starting something now, that's adaptable to the world that we live in. Vending machines are still going to be open 24/7, pretty safe. Obviously you'd have increased cleaning rotas and stuff that you need now, but it's a business that can work no matter what's happening, because it's always going to be open. It's not like a shop or a restaurant. It's not going to be closed. So vending machines, I'm going to break down for you the exact economics of how a vending machine business works. So I'm looking at my whiteboard here. So let's break it down. So this is all based on a US study, but I would imagine the figures kind of ring somewhat true here, give or take. So in the US, 70% of all vending machine businesses are small, micro, they're due to one owner. And how it works is that, I always wondered this, how much do they pay like a hotel or a factory or a hospital to be there? And it costs about 10 to 20% of your margin to be in a location. So you'll go to the, petrol station owner or the hotel owner and go, look, I'll give you 10 to 20%, 10 to 25% of my gross monthly take. I'm not sure if it's gross or net. It would make sense if it was net, but that gives you a rough idea, 10 to 25%. The average machine costs around $1,600, so let's say €1,500, and the average gross income it makes in a month, how I guess? $400. That's gross though. But the margins are pretty damn healthy. The breakdown then in terms of, what is sold, 40% are snacks, 33% drinks machines, and the rest then is broken down between candy, sweets, health, and general stuff like electronics. You see them in all the airports now. Heathrow, Gatwick have all the kind of electronics vending machines. I think that's really cool. So you can buy like, headphones for your flight, or, cables, charging cables and stuff like that. I think they're a cool idea. A friend of mine sent me a photo. I'll try to dig it out, of a COVID vending machine. Not vending COVID obviously, but vending masks and hand sanitizer and stuff like that. I thought that was a really cool idea, and something that could pop up. You could put that across any of your outlets. If you had a huge range of outlets across Ireland, you could pop up, I can't remember how much it was, maybe €4 for a mask, and I think a tiny hand sanitizer, which isn't bad. It isn't price gouging. The margins then on the stuff is between 40 and 80%. So if you're, a gross margin of 40, 80% is damn good in any single business. Remember, these are all gross figures. Let's just say, you subtract about 50% for costs and operating costs. So how much does it cost then to run a business like that? So the main costs are insurance. Stock obviously is the biggest one, and then general maintenance. So you obviously have to maintain the machines. The older machines you buy, the more maintenance you're going to have to do. The newer machines also allow for scale, in terms of they're all automated, so that they'll send you a ping going, okay Gary, you have 6 cans Coke left and 3 fulfill bars. You need to top up in the next day or two, and then the operators go for scale in terms of they get 20, 30 machines. So they broke down as a really, really good report. If you're on my newsletter, mrgaryfox.com, sign up to the newsletter. If you're on it already, you'll get this email today breaking down and showing you the figures in detail. I'll also link directly to the long form article that I read, and this goes into even more detail. But the summary of what you're wondering, how much can you earn? So on a vending machine business with $5,000 revenue, the owner was making $2,000 net, which is not bad. Now, I'd say it's not simple work in terms of it's quite time consuming, but it's one of those businesses that you can do in your own time, give or take. You can, as long as the businesses are open, you can go in and top them up at any single time. It's not one of those, I'm using air quotes here if you're not watching on YouTube, of those passive businesses whereby, I earn money while I sleep. They don't exist really, unless you do an online course, but then you've already initially front loaded the work. So passive is a very flexible term as to how you define it. But it's one of those businesses that you could do if you had another job, if you had another enterprise going at the same time. Now, I don't know what the Irish vending machine business is like, whether it's saturated, whether it's not. If you're in it, shoot me a DM, let me know what it's like. But I thought this was interesting. It's just one of those random businesses. I thought that, yeah, you know what, you could spend 5-6 grand, get a couple of machines, find a couple of locations, and you could be off and running pretty quickly. So I just thought for people who might have been affected by COVID, or who are looking to start their own business and want something that's, I won't say easy, but something that's, it's a me kind of business. You buy it for X, you sell it for Y. Simples. There's your business. So that's the deep dive for today. If you like these kind of deep dives into business models and stuff, let me know. I'm probably still going to do them anyway because I find them interesting. That's all about me, really. Not really. But do let me know if you find them interesting. I want to touch on one or two quick things before I go. Elkstone, who I had on the pod before. I had Alan Merriman on the pod. It's a super interview if you want to go back and have a look at it. He runs Elkstone, which is the largest family office in Ireland, and they're heavy investors in the Irish startup scene. They've backed some of the biggest startups in Ireland, and they're looking to try make an adjustment to the EII legislation. So the budget is coming this week. So if you're listening on Monday, it's coming this week, and they're looking to get as much traction as they can in terms of making startup investing accessible to everyone. So like me, you, everybody, making the tax incentives more forgiving and easier so that you can invest with someone like Alan and Elkstone, and you can, it's easier, it's straightforward, and your taxes are done super simply. So I'm supporting that movement by Elkstone to make startup investing easier. I think it makes more funds available to the likes of me and you. So I'm definitely behind Alan and Elkstone on that. I will link to that in my newsletter. I'll also link to it if you're watching this on Spotify. I'll link it to down below and on my website as well. Go check that out. Look at Alan and Elkstone and what they're doing. It's a big idea, and they're supported by Enterprise Ireland. So do go have a look. It's in all our interest to make investing in businesses a little bit easier in Ireland. That is it for Monday. I am back Thursday with a deep dive interview. I will see you then. That's it. We're wrapped. Thank you very much. If you're watching on YouTube, I am trying to grow this channel. I'm trying to make it another outlet because I like watching podcasts on YouTube. I assume you do too because you're here. I'm also going to do a lot more videos on what I'm up to myself. So I'm just about to pivot my business, and I'm going to do a lot more interviews? Videos, I'm so used to saying interviews. Videos behind the scenes as to what I'm up to. If you find it interesting, why I'm doing that is that I just think it's important to mark this time. I think we're living through one of the craziest times ever. I can't remember a time like it in my life anyway. And hopefully we'll never see something like this again, but I do think it will be nice to look back when it's all over and go, Jesus, that was crazy. Because you forget stuff so fast. You forget how crazy things are so quickly. I think it'll be really good to be able to look back and go, geez, remember everything was shut? Remember you couldn't fly out of Ireland? Remember you couldn't leave Wicklow or leave Dublin or Tipperary, wherever your county is? Remember that? Remember you couldn't go to a pub? Remember you couldn't go to a cafe? Crazy. And we are in the norm of it now. So I think it will be important to look back and go, wow, this is what happened in my business. So I definitely think it's worth doing. So yeah, there are a lot more videos coming. I'm planning a big video probably early Jan in terms of showing my entire journey from trying to pivot my business to hopefully having my first demo unit ready for the new business. So you'll be the first to see what the new business is. I will see you Thursday. Thank you very much for watching. Go on, I will say it. Hit the thumbs up button if you did enjoy it. I'll see you Thursday.